Thank you.
Frank, I'll just let you know that Rachel just showed up. So that brings us up to 9, which is a quorum. So I guess I will
Good night.
turn it over to you.
I'm sorry, I was making sure I wasn't on mute. Okay, it says 7:06 on the 15th of April. We'll call the meeting to order. Jerry has the roll call based on his observances.
And can I just double check? We do have one person kind of as an attendee for this session. Do you all have the ability to use the chat box at the bottom? Is that an option that's available?
Yeah.
It is?
I think so. Let me see. Chat.
It's not on mine, so.
I don't see it on mine.
Yeah, I'm
It
not
was
seeing it
online.
on mine.
No, I don't see it either this time.
Okay, so I guess, Frank, when we get to the public comments, then maybe I will see if I can make contact with the person in the waiting room. If they're
Yeah, I think it's Karen, and she could
Yeah.
probably raise her hand.
Okay, so our first order of business would be approval of our minutes from, let's see, the March 19th. Anyone to make a motion for that?
I believe it was the 18th, Frank.
18th.
I'm not so good at reading calendars, sorry. On the 18th of March.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Ben. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Rachel Franco, Counselor, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, take a vote on approval of those minutes from the 18th of March. All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Any against? None that I see. Any abstentions?
I'll abstain since I wasn't there.
Got it.
Thank you. Okay, and now, as Jerry said, we have one person from the public. Karen. Do you have any comment, Karen?
I
don't have any comments. I just wanted to listen.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
my daughter Lauren plays lacrosse and soccer, and I just wanted to listen to what's going on specifically with the middle school fields. You know, the plans going forward for other town fields is the only reason I'm here, so I don't need to talk.
Okay.
Terrific. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Yep.
So under our agenda, item number 1 is to discuss how do we, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, Frank, we did on the, we did create a Facebook event for tonight's meeting that mentioned that we were going to take comments off of Facebook and address those comments during the public comment portion of the meeting here tonight. So I would tell you that there were no comments posted on Facebook, but I did get, you know, in the course of doing business and whatnot, the things that I seem to hear from the public or people that I speak to about the Athletic Fields Task Force, I would say that there is a broad agreement in the community that there is need for the fields. So we haven't had questions about whether or not it, you know, is building fields necessary. I think there's broad consensus in the community that yes, that is the fact. But some of the more common questions that I do see from time to time or hear from people, you know, when might we see fields? How much are they going to cost? And, you know, where are they going to go? Those are probably the 3 biggest questions that I've kind of heard. I don't know if there's any other questions that other members of the task force have heard. But if not, and we just heard from a parent here tonight that with some questions about what's going on at the middle school. So, you know, if we want to maybe just take a few minutes and respond to those or see if there's any other questions that anybody else has heard.
I would ask Portia, interesting enough that you were there tonight at an event. Did you hear anything from the parents that you spoke to?
Yeah, I was at the event on Wednesday. It was the first outdoor track meet of the season. It was pretty well attended. Was against Bacon Academy, and there was a lot of students who went out for track that normally didn't run track, but due to COVID wanted something to do. And a lot of parents were asking about things like, look at Bacon Academy's starting blocks. Wow, ours look outdated. And I looked at someone, I said, I think those are the starting blocks I use, to be exact. I was watching the girl move them, looking at the long jump pit where my son actually plays. And it just, people kind of, we felt our bathrooms weren't open for the event. The water wasn't put on. So we had to redirect parents into the field house because the actual bathrooms at the spray painted concession stand area was closed and not turned on. No porta potties were brought down. We just really showed our lack of amenities is what I guess is the greater, that was the feeling that day there. And one of the former coaches said it best to me. He said, when I joined here in the 90s, we had one of the better complexes in our area. And now we stand out as not so much having that. Our field, our fence around our track had what I call tie wraps holding up some of the fencing. We just can do better is all. And I think our amenities and lack thereof was definitely relevant that day, and the corners that were being cut to put on the event, even though it was a nice event. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
We did win despite all that, so.
I didn't want to bring that up, but
No, well, we do work around those things, and I agree. Not having any bathrooms or facilities, they're showing their age. But we've talked about that ad nauseum, and I think we're well aware and well on our way to getting something accomplished to solve those problems.
yes.
Anyone else with comments that they've heard from the general public as they've spoken to them about our endeavors? Ben, is that your hand up?
It wasn't
think
up,
you're-
but yeah, sure. So I didn't want to make a comment, but I did want to respond to Karen's statement as to what's going on with the middle school field and what's planned there. As we saw today and yesterday, we did have girls lacrosse first game there yesterday, boys lacrosse today. We do plan to have every boys and girls lacrosse game there this season. At the beginning of the season, there was maybe one that we needed to play off site of the school. But I think what you're noticing is the kids are really enjoying the fact that they have that space up there, and they love practicing on that field. They love playing on that field, and it's not a knock on any other facility in town. It's just, the reality is it's a really nice place for them to play. But as we are finding out the last couple of days, we go back to the amenities issue, and there are some, there's a serious lack of amenities there. We have, one porta john on one side of one of the field. We have limited bleacher space. We have no scoreboard. We have a portable one, which is on order, which will be in by the end of this month, which should help solve that problem. But again, there's a lot, as great a space as that is, it could be so much more. And I don't want to, everybody knows how I feel about the lights on that field and how it's a must that we get lighting on that field. But I haven't heard much about anything in that direction lately, and I'm starting to get worried that that's kind of falling off the radar. But anyway, that was today and yesterday, and this spring's issues. Last fall, we did play field hockey on that field and a couple of girls soccer games. We were not able, for some rescheduling reasons, to get the boys up on that field for boys soccer. But this fall, that is my plan. I want to get as many games on that field as possible with boys, girls soccer, and field hockey.
Ben, let me ask you a question. How is with I guess my expectation that in the fall, the middle school will be having also outdoor sports in the fall. We'll say soccer. How will that work with the two entities?
It actually should be okay because we're also gaining a full-size rectangular grass field adjacent to the synthetic field. So where we only had the synthetic last fall, and really it was used by the GMS after-school programs and actually that was really pretty much it. This year we'll have middle school soccer, all the sports I just mentioned, and after school programs, but we'll also have another huge space available to us when the grass field is open.
Good.
So we should be able to schedule more there this fall than we did last fall. Part of last fall, the field wasn't even available. It was still being worked on, so.
Right.
Frank, we have a hand up from Rachel.
Oh, I see it in the corner of my screen now. Rachel, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just very quickly, at the council, the Board of Ed had come forward that there is some extra money in the school budgets, and they requested the lights at the middle school on those fields. So that has passed the council. And I believe it has passed the RTM, if I'm not mistaken. So that should be on its way to the middle school.
That's great news. That's terrific.
And I guess I would just add on to the middle school situation right now. I believe the softball field is not available right now. So the high school softball team and there's that field is still I guess they're waiting for the turf to really take hold there. So in terms of the artificial surface at Groton Middle School, yes, that is being used by both the middle school and the high school. The two natural surface fields, the rectangle and the softball field, are not being used currently. I would also point out that as we move forward, the proposal that we had for fields took into account kind of what's going on at the middle school. So, we hear the Fitch athletic director saying how much better it is, or that the kids are excited to use these. But the fact of the matter is there is still more use in the high school, in the middle school, and in the community that is still not able to be served on these fields. So I want to be very careful in the fact that, yes, that artificial surface field is an improvement for the community, but it is not an answer to all of the needs that currently exist. So just putting that out there. And Karen, I hope that kind of answers your question about what's going on at the middle school. Maybe Chad, maybe I can just, you seem to be the one who's got a pretty good handle on these kind of more general questions, like when we might see them, where we might put them, and how much they might cost. What's the, this, I know we don't have any specifics, and I know we have a capital project to do planning that's going to, give us really specific answers to these questions. But is there any kind of a spitball kind of guess you can throw out there?
The spitball guess, I would say we're a couple of years away is my best answer as far as when we might be seeing hopefully the new field improvements. Yes, the town council, I believe, if I remember right, did pass the manager's budget, which included the funding through Park and Rec to be able to do a study to look at all the fields. So that's hopefully coming up in 2021, assuming that passes the RTM. But that's probably at least a year-long study. And if everything goes, I would say, amazingly well from that study perspective, and there's community support for it, I would think the earliest we could be talking a referendum is, is it late next year? November of 22, maybe. and that's a referendum, and then you got to do design and construction and build. So I think one of the timelines we had laid out was, if everything is perfect, maybe we see a field by 2024. Was kind of the earliest hope we had. So which I wish would be sooner, but I think that's kind of a standard process when you're talking about government funding projects. But I was very encouraged that the town council passed that initial funding. I think we need to send out letters and support again for the RTM to make sure that funding stays in place, because if it doesn't, then we're delayed a whole year, right? We're back to the budget season again and waiting for that study for a full another year. I will say I've been encouraged in a lot of the different meetings I've been at, both town council and planning and conservation. It does seem a lot of people are talking about the field study, and it seems a lot of people are acknowledging that they all understand there's a need, and they're just kind of waiting for the next step to happen. So I haven't seen a whole lot of negativity about it. Yes, we have the synthetic turf issue, but even the Groton Conservation Advocates have acknowledged that there's a need and that we need to fill that need. And then it's just a discussion of how do we do that with synthetic or natural or a combination. So I guess, and then from a budget perspective, I honestly don't know. I mean, definitely $1 million a field is kind of our typical number that we throw out. And then of course, amenities can go from there. At the high school, we were proposing, 2 additional full-size fields, as well as then redoing the football and track and all that. You're talking about a new field house with bathrooms and concessions. That's a pretty big number to go with that. Then down the hill at Sutton Park, yes, there's 2 baseball fields there now, but just recreating those into a new baseball and a new softball field. There's a couple $1 million there. We're talking about amenities, bathrooms and concessions and locker rooms and all that stuff down there. And then ideally over at Cloudchester with the addition of a couple of new rectangles, as well as that intermediate sized baseball field. That's what we proposed at least at the moment. So again, I'd say, several $1 million there by the time you add 3 fields and parking and amenities as well. So that's my short guess, but I would hope to say that within the next year, we'll have a real defined number as to what those fields really are, what amenities can truly fit, and a much better idea of what the budget really looks like. And then we can tailor that to the appetite of the public as far as the budget goes, I guess.
So if probably a question for the 2 counselors, just to make me smarter. When you say that it's now so what you're telling me or what I'm hearing is that the proposal from the Groton Parks and Rec is in the package that was approved by the town council, which now goes to the RTM and that's like, I'll call it the last stop, if you would. Is that correct?
Yes, it's currently in the budget. We approved that in our CIPs, which are capital improvement projects.
Right.
When our package is full, like when we're completely done with the budget, it then goes off to the RTM. They pick through everything and they can cut it or they can leave it. And after the RTM then votes on it, it comes back to the council, and then we put the final stamp of approval on it and set the mill rates.
Now, when is their next, when would they vote on that or discuss that, I should say? Any idea?
Yeah.
No one knows that, sir.
Yeah, the first thing that when it goes to the RTM is it goes to the RTM has several committees. So it's going to go to the Parks and Recreation Committee of the RTM first, and we'll talk about it in there. After that, it will go to the full RTM. And so that probably happens. Certainly the committee meeting is going to happen in April. The final meeting of the RTM likely is going to happen in May, that we'll get final approval. And I think by charter or by statute or something, I think the RTM has to act by a certain day so the council can set the mill rate sometime probably by June. So yeah, but really there are 2 opportunities for really discussion left. One is at the RTM Parks and Recreation Committee, and then once it goes to the full RTM. But so that's likely to have, be fully done by, early June. I would expect that to be all set.
So if we were to send notes to the RTM at this time, that would be a positive, that would,
Yes,
it's not already passed. We can still do that.
yes.
That'd be good. Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt to attend, or I'm gonna make my best effort to attend when it goes to the Recreation, Parks and Rec Committee. Because at that point they will vote, and out of there they'll come before the floor of the RTM with where they stood as a committee. But even though where they stand as a committee doesn't mean that's how the whole body will vote as a whole. So there's those two opportunities definitely to speak upon it. So yes, I think it's great to send any thoughts or support for it in any capacity.
Could someone share those dates with our group if they have them?
Yeah, I don't know if I have them. Are they posted yet, Jerry, online?
I believe I was just looking.
That's looking on mine.
I was trying to look on my, my phone. I think the 26th is the night of the Parks and Recreation Committee of the RTM meeting.
Okay.
So that's a Monday night, and I believe it's at 7 o'clock. But I guess I don't want to say that with certainty. That's my best guess right now. I don't have final confirmation of the date or the time, but I do believe I was looking through my emails quickly there to see if I could recall it, but I think that's what it was.
So I would just request that, just like we did for town council, when we know those dates, let's send it out to obviously this committee, but then all the youth groups that we've been talking about, and hope that they can send out that same support letter again, to get it to both the committee as well as the full RTM in a timely fashion for their meetings.
I will do that. Thanks, Chad.
So any other discussion on the kind of feedback, if anyone else, Danny, I'm interested if have you guys had any discussion at your meetings? Now, I know I'm assuming they've still been virtual and stuff, but I didn't know if
Yes.
it's been brought up at all.
Well, I sent it out, the Facebook announcement in my meeting invite to all the current Booster Club members, all the coaches. And we had a couple coaches attend the last meeting. I think that there is some awareness. I think that we didn't get any real feedback from any parents at that meeting because they didn't attend. We had some coaches, but we had some parent reps, but just general members did not attend. So I think that we asked the coaches to try to spread the word a little bit, and I know Vinny has to ask them the same thing. But I don't have too much input right now from parents.
Have we thought about doing another like newspaper article of sorts, kind of letting us know where we are, like, just kind of keeping it fresh on the minds by putting it in an article at all? Is there a way that you guys would agree to do that?
So it was interesting. I told Jerry, I did write a letter to the editor that never got published. But interesting, and I'm going to say I didn't read the whole article, but sometime this week, Mr. DeMauro had an article about the poor East Line people who can't keep up with Waterford. So my wife, we had talked about it before, and she had a great idea, is to, I'm going to send that same letter, kind of, sort of, to DeMauro, hoping that I can, maybe I can get it into the sports edition letter to the editor, because I've seen those before as well. And then, okay, so I'm on this side of the town, so I get the Groton Times. So actually, I'm going to look up to see if I can send it there too.
Yeah, that'd be
Being
nice.
more, and then obviously if I can send it to the Groton Times, I could probably get it. If I can get it pushed to the Mystic Times, to the same ones, just to, it was more of an it was more information, like go to this website kind of thing.
Nice.
And actually now with Jerry's link to the Facebook, that's something I could add to it because I just had the initial one. So I can throw it out. I'm gonna throw it out there to all those, to Tomorrow himself and to the ones I just mentioned, just to see if someone will push, because personally, I think that the day never got back to me. My guess is it wasn't an op-ed, but it was more of maybe more informational than it was. It wasn't like I hate something or make this better. It was, it wasn't mean and malicious, but it was. So maybe that's why they didn't never get back. They didn't say why or why not. It didn't show up. I keep checking. I keep Googling my name and it's not there.
And you sent it as a letter to the editor or
letter to the editor.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I'll try those avenues as well.
Rachel's hand is up, Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you. I had put a post on Facebook and I got 20 responses from it in the forum back when we had put out there was an article in the paper. So I can share some of I don't know if everybody had seen this, but I can share some of the comments on there because there are a lot of people who have ideas and maybe aren't informed of some of the things or the costs maybe associated with some of their ideas. Or I don't know, would you like me to read some of these?
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely.
So somebody said, Groton is closing 3 elementary schools in the summer, bulldoze the buildings and make 3 multi-use parks sport areas. And that had 13 likes on it, that comment. Another one said, well, Quantic Plains is good sized and can house lacrosse, football, soccer, easy enough. That's a fairly large field. There's Washington Park for baseball and softball fields. Last I knew, there are some softball fields over in the park at the bottom of the hill at Grasso Tech, set back. Do they run enough programs for adults and kids to warrant more than they have? And somebody did reply, not nearly enough. And then there was a whole conversation about, oh my gosh, I just lost that page. Hold on. Oh, so then there was a conversation about that and people piped in about draining at certain places. And then I had responded and said that all fields in the town were taken in consideration, compiled into a huge spreadsheet of statistics. The city of Groton was reviewed, though. Those fields are heavily utilized by teams and organizations located in the city, and some teams have priority in scheduling. The report stated 13 teams routinely are bussed off-site from Fitch High School for practices on park and rec fields. As you have schools using town fields, the town park and rec department cannot utilize their own fields for their programs. As such, the task force found fields are overused, the demand is large, updates are needed, and acknowledge the lack of restrooms, ADA compliance, and concessions. One example of decline noted was the football concession restroom building at the Fitch Senior. It is dilapidated and in need of replacement or repair. And I put a little fancy chart in there for people to see. And then somebody replied and said, swimming is a sport too, which actually is more appropriate to all age groups and people with various musculoskeletal conditions. We lack public swimming pool. And I said, the town has an offer from a developer at the Mystic Oral School. And then I just commented on that to get them up to date that there's a possibility of a swimming pool there. What about more dog parks? And they don't take up much room. Somebody had mentioned on that. Shortage, question mark. Other towns come here to use our NC. I'm not sure exactly what that means. They don't have what we have. So I don't know if other towns use our facilities a lot. I'm not sure. No. And somebody did reply and say, who, what towns? Maybe you mean people from other towns come here. Somebody said we are worried about sports when we should be focused on balancing the budget. And one more comment, hold on, it's loading. I never understood why the football field at Fitch was only used for football, boys and girls lacrosse, and field hockey were all played at PQ. Only once when I was playing lacrosse back in high school did we play on the field at Fitch. So those are the kind of comments that were out there. And so I think from just reading those that our committee might have education to do with the public. And I don't know how to reach the people out there. I did notice that tonight's meeting, I went to the page to see if I could click a link to maybe get into this meeting tonight, and there wasn't one. So it's not readily, I didn't see one readily accessible from the page. So I did share the link on Facebook as soon as the meeting, like right in the first few minutes on the Groton forum to say, hey, the meeting just started, come and join. But just to share, I don't know if it's accessible extremely easily. So that's it. Thank you.
Rachel, thank you for all that. I'm going to check on the website. I would think that the website is supposed to have the Zoom link right there. So I guess I'm not sure what happened with that, but I'll check on that. But other than that, I think it sounds like you've done a fine job of being a spokesperson for the Athletic Fields Task Force there. And hang on here, Frank, I guess we're still on the public comment thing, and I've got Karen with her hand up. So let me just see if I can make that happen.
Go ahead, Karen.
Okay, thanks again. So it was difficult to find the Zoom link. It wasn't on the Facebook post for the meeting, which is where I found out about it. I did send a message about 5 minutes before the meeting through Facebook to say, can I have the link? And then I just Google searched and found, like, clicked on a calendar, clicked on the link, but I mean, it wasn't easily accessible. So that probably would be helpful. I kind of feel silly that I'm the only one here, but I think if you can make it a little easily accessible, there's definitely an interest in talking about this stuff in town.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else now? Oh, hi, Portia. Yep. Go ahead. I see your hand.
Yeah, thanks. I think if there's a way, I know Councilor Franco goes to like baseball. I've been going to track. I'm not sure, under public comment what events Karen goes to, but maybe there's a way. I know Danny does stuff with the booster. Maybe there's a way, and I'd be willing to give up some of my free time to attend some of the other events and maybe come up with a short flyer. Not everybody looks for this stuff on internet. So maybe we got to get them there by kind of saying, hey, have you heard that there's a group looking to improve fields? Oh, you're interested? Here's a link. Here's a thing. Here's when they meet. If I had something that's approved by this group to give, I'd be willing to kind of pass that. I can't speak for Councilor Franco or Karen or whoever else wants to be a part of that, but I think it would be appropriate to start canvassing those families now that COVID, obviously COVID is still very prevalent, but as more outdoor activities are open up and now that parents are allowed to attend these events, you kind of you have the audience there. And I think we could probably pull in some more folks that might be interested. I would be willing to go down to the Little League fields down in the city of Groton, as well as the town, and just kind of pop in, when people are playing and hand out informational pieces if they wanted them. I'm not sure if that's something you guys are interested in, but I think kind of catching them where they're at. We have a transient community with the military Pfizer EB, and some aren't aware of the online stuff. And I know the online link is new to us only recently, but I think there's a way that we can kind of start to lure some folks in. And we got to find them at the events and say, don't you think we need better amenities here? And maybe kind of give them something to take.
Good idea. Thank you.
Frank, Danny's got his hand up.
So
Danny?
I would agree with Councilor Borderland is that we talked about, Vin and I and the rest of the Booster Club, about our concession events that we might have for this spring, and we have a list of some of the sports that are going to have some. So I think it's a good idea to have that flyer so we can hand it out at the concession stand, as well as just hand it out to spectators that don't even buy concessions, if it's something made available within the next few weeks or so. The sooner the better.
So I guess I will say that I could make some type of a flyer or a card or something that we'll get out to, I'll probably drop some off with Vin, and I can also get some in the hands of some of the youth sport folks as well. So I have communication with all those people regularly, so I can take that on and get that done. And I see that Rich's hand is up too, Frank.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Rich.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead,
just
Rich.
gonna have to say that I have to leave the meeting early tonight, so I am gonna leave right now. And I hope you still have a quorum, but I do have to sign off tonight.
Thanks, Rich.
All right.
So for us people who don't have students right now, Ben, can I show up at events now as a non-parent? Is that authorized at this point in time?
Yes, sir. Spectators are permitted at all events. There are some guidelines that we need to follow, like you need to have a mask and you need to be socially distant, but other than that, they are permitted right now.
Okay, good. Because I think I would be on the bandwagon with Councilor Borderland, because I think I can make drop-offs around town to just at least get them to the field. Like you said, I think it's a little difficult because you can't quote hand them out. Makes it a little more difficult, but I think that I could show up at events for sure once we get those, just to pass things.
You just have to check the CIC website for the schedule for home
Yeah.
games and
Yeah,
away
yeah.
games.
Well, I have it bookmarked. I've had it bookmarked since a long time ago.
Is there a way we can streamline it and maybe send it to the group, like all the upcoming ones, and that way we all are kind of in the know and just send it out as a list? I mean, I know like I follow track and some other things, but I might not, look at the other events. So maybe if we send it out to our whole committee, all of the upcoming, I know Jerry probably has a better handle on what's going on at the Parks and Rec fields that are outside of the high school, and Vince might know more about the athletics. So maybe there's a way we could send out a couple pages on that so that we know when these events are going on.
I guess I would just respond to that and say that the individual leagues, we typically don't have like a game schedule for Little League or a game schedule for lacrosse or soccer club or whoever. We kind of block off times at those fields, and generally speaking, at Pequannock Plains on Saturday and Sunday, there's going to be a lot of activity down there and a lot of games, and that would go for the ball fields as well. Frank, you see Jay's hand? Okay.
Yep. Jay, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to check with Susan and see whether or not there's a way that we can put links to your page on the district, whether we can send emails. I know there's always a little bit of concern when the superintendent or the district send out things that are politically, connected. But I think as long as it's just sharing information, that RTM is going to consider this. I think it's very important that RTM fund the CIP, otherwise we're dead in the water. And while we can't take a stand and tell people what to do, just make them aware and then point them to, your website and any information you have, just so that they get the parents more involved from that aspect. So let me see, what Susan can do.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jay.
Sorry, I was writing. Anyone else on thoughts? Because I think what we're really trying to do is find out ways to kind of push this out in the public. Rachel, I think yours is on that community forum one, right? That I joined. I think I'm on that.
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, where you were reading those comments from.
Yes.
Groton Community Forum, right?
Yeah, it's Groton, Connecticut Community Forum.
Got it.
I guess I would just add to that, as far as getting it out there, if we have that one-page flyer that you're going to hand out, I think you definitely email it to all the youth groups and have them send it to their membership also, because it's a lot easier to put it in inboxes of 700 people than it is to hand it out to 700 people. And even if only 50% of them read it, it's still there, and they can go back and look it up and find the links and stuff like that. So, and just as easy to send out. And I know, for just speaking for lacrosse too, I mean, I can send it to our couple hundred currently, active players, but we can send it back through the last 10 years of everybody that's been on, the lacrosse organization. So parents that might not even have kids still playing, or might only have kids playing at the high school, could still get that way as well.
Right, because I think we need to push it out there, because, none of us are naive enough to think that once a year from now, when they come through with a cost analysis, that's when it's very highly likely that there will be some negative feedback. So the more that we can get people in the next upcoming months to understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it, it's totally in our advantage to keep this moving forward. So anyone else comments at this point for that?
Yep.
Rachel.
Yeah, you got Rachel and.
I'm sorry, Rachel, go ahead. I'm sorry. I put my head down.
Thank you. I know Councilor Bordelon and I are both pretty active on social media and have some kind of reach. But if we had, if you make a flyer and you put it in the form of a photo or JPEG, we can share it on social media. So if you make it in a PDF or a Word document, it's extremely hard to share that on social media. So one thing is, if it's a photo, would be very good. Also, if you can come up with some other things, like Mr. Frost, you had made your presentation and you put some fields in certain locations. And if we could get photographs of those and we could share and say, what do you think about this? Come to the athletic field task force and let's have a conversation. What do you think about these at Sutton Park? And so we could have these photographs and they could be shared on a social media platform. And that might draw people in to say, either comment. So we'll get the comments to be able to hear the feedback, or we'll be able to lure them into the meeting to have the conversation with us. So those are just some of my ideas. I'm not a marketing specialist by any means, but I don't know if it'll work, but it's an idea. Thanks.
Councilor Bordelon?
Yes, I agree with Councilor Franco. She's definitely more of the social media expert than I am. So I'll let her share it and then I will share from her page. But yeah, I think it's great. I'm part of a Fitch alumni page as well. And I also think we need to spin it. I was looking back, if you Google Ledyard's Fields, when they were building to this point, the momentum, if you search it and Google it, you can find a lot of the stuff that they were doing, a lot of their stuff that was public paper. And it's nice to go back and read it. I'm not saying we're going to follow that same direction, but I was trying to look to see. And one of the spins I saw for them is not just the current parents like Franco, myself, and whoever else has children in the school district, but as a taxpayer, as an alumni, the betterment of the town. So those keywords in there too, it draws in a broader audience, right? Like long after my kids graduate, the benefit of having good fields in this district help the tax base as a whole. It really attracts young families. So those are important keys, because you want to attract everyone who's got children in the schools, alumni, prospective parents, taxpayers that are, no longer got kids in the school. So those are some of the things that I saw, but I definitely think the more that we can share, and I'm willing to help out any way we can to kind of get that grassroots kind of feel out there and really kind of resonate with folks and try to bring them in. So, and Rachel's got baseball going on, so I'm sure she can drag those folks in. So, and I would be willing to meet her, if I had the dates, I could meet her there at the field. There might be someone that she feels that she's comfortable with talking to. I might know somebody. She can come down to the track events. We can pop into Pequannock Plains on the weekend and, just kind of, it's amazing. People want to talk right now, after COVID, everyone wants a conversation. And even if it's, respectful and with a mask on and your distance, it's good to talk about something. And I think people would be willing to talk about it. So.
I mean, actually, it's funny. I was all excited to go to my grandson's first soccer practice on Saturday morning, and my daughter said, "No, only one parent's allowed to go." And I'm like, "Damn!" I was like, just just ripped my heart right out. I wanted to watch them, but I was like, I can use this time. I can chat with them about this. There's no doubt about that. I'm one of those.
No restrictions at our events.
That's good. It's good to hear. Good.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
My last thing, I know we're far from it, but is there a way that we could, if this passes through, start, also thinking about fundraising? I think sometimes the committee is very strong and we're like, hey, look, we raised $10,000 selling sweatshirts and gear and swagger. And, is that something that this committee is allowed to do? Can we do? And if it is, like, where do we go? I mean, I don't know if it's going to be cushions for the bleachers or face masks or sweatshirts but it doesn't hurt to start showing that we are really into it, and starting to get people to kind of go into those links to either donate or purchase, stuff. And I don't know how far away we are from that, but I think that's something to start to think about as well.
Okay. Anyone else? Sorry, I tried to look at our agenda.
Done
But you
before
pro-
8 sounds nice.
What's that?
I said done before 8 sounds great.
Yeah. Frank, I think we've kind of merged the public comment and one of our old business items was to discuss organizing community support. So we've kind of morphed into that. The other agenda item we really haven't discussed here is the new business item about just not necessarily discussing our response to all of the artificial surface questions, but I guess more of a process. How do we want to go about responding, I guess is more of the question, not what do we want to say, but how do we go about formulating the response? So that's really the only other item we have for the agenda here. And maybe just to start that discussion, I know Chad and I have had at least maybe a couple of discussions about it, if we want to kind of try to answer the question for everybody for all time, kind of a response where, you go in and you do a deep dive on all the intricacies of introducing plastic into the environment and what's the rate of injury, lower body extremities for high school people or, different age people. I mean, there's all kinds of information that's out there. Some of it is developed, some of it is not. That's kind of a really, really, really big project. And I'm not sure that we could fully answer all those questions with the time and budget and resources that we have. The other potential strategy was to kind of go through the concerns that have been raised. We had the Groton Conservation Advocates, pose several concerns to the Athletic Fields Task Force, the RTM, and the Town Council. And the other strategy would be to go through those things and note what things they mentioned, and I'll just, a specific thing, can artificial turf be recycled? And if so, where and how much does it cost? And kind of answer that question and kind of, deal with that specific concern that was raised. And I think, if we look at it in terms of answering specific questions that were raised about artificial surfaces, I think, there's information that's maybe a more doable thing rather than, trying to answer the question for all artificial surfaces and all, athletic applications in the United States or whatever. I mean, it's just, or across the world. It's just a really, really big topic.
So you went through their presentation.
Yes.
And pulled out like kind of their couple of their concerns.
Correct. So I guess, that would be just, if this is one voice on the task force here, that we kind of limit our scope to the questions that have been asked rather than kind of, the larger question of, is artificial turf a good thing or a bad thing in the world? I mean, it's that's just a really, really big question.
Right. Well, I think us providing information about the questions that they raise is really probably the best we can do, right? We're not gonna end up in front of the Supreme Court. This is the final answer because the Groton Athletic Field Task Force said so, right? But I mean, if their concerns are A through B, we can try to not rebut them, but just reply to them. We're not gonna change anyone's mind, but we can give them the other side of the story, right?
Yeah, and we can show that we've considered what they've said, and there's always a value judgment, and there's a what's best judgment. What's the best thing we can do here, our rates of lower body injuries greater on artificial surfaces than they are on natural surfaces. If yes, to what degree, and what's the cost of that? What is what? Are they more numerous? Are they more severe? Are they, I don't know, and to what degree can we maintain, natural surfaces to keep the same playability level of a field? And, we have to kind of weigh those things back and forth. The ideal field that we can expect out of a natural surface field is probably, it's not Yankee Stadium, and it's not, the Orange Bowl or whatever. I mean, we're talking about, a municipality in New England trying to grow grass at various times of the year to make a safe surface. There are limitations that we can expect with the quality of our turf, and so I guess there's even questions like that that haven't been answered by a study. I mean, there is no study in the world that would answer that particular question.
Right.
Well, and I'll jump in a little bit too, because I tend to agree with you, Jerry, that I think that our best approach at this point is to kind of go, whether it's point by point or just use the presentation, and look at the issues, and then look at the data, the links that they provided, and create some sort of a response for each of them. And I do think there are some, I know I personally went through some of their links, and what I read was the summary and the link to me seemed different than the summary they were presenting, was my take on it. But there's other things like the heat. That's a known issue. We know synthetic turf fields get hotter because they are synthetic turf and they're not a natural grass. They don't transpire. And so I think there are some of those things that we know are less desirable, and I don't think we make any issue about hiding it. I think all players that play on synthetic turf know that, and the coaches that coach on it know that as well. So that would be my approach, is to just kind of go through and try to look at the question, the issue that was raised, look at the data or the links that they provided, and then create a response if we can, that the whole committee can agree to. And then that's what because we did say we'd present it back to the town council. And I guess that's what I think is our best approach, is to say, okay, here's the concerns that were raised, here's our responses to those concerns, and be able to give it back to the council that way.
Rachel has her hand up, Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rachel.
Yep, just very quick. I agree. Just do the, hit on some of the things, and make a referral. And it's ultimately going to be, I guess, the council's decision on which way they want to go with it. And I think you would, with the study coming up, it's going to show what the cost factors are involved with fields, whether they're synthetic or whether they're grass. So you're going to get a number, and then you already have your statistics to say, well, if we do this one synthetic, it's going to be here, and this is the cost. And if we need to do 2 other ones in grass instead, this is the cost of that. So there's going to be that comparison. That's going to be more data for you to just sort of the council as well. So I think we just do our best, and I don't think we should get into the minute weeds. I think you take care of the big topic issues, and because, like you said, we're all volunteers. There's limited resources, and I think you do what you can, and it's ultimately going to be up to the council.
Thank you.
So I guess, I know that there's Chad and I know for, we deal with this maybe more than most people, it's kind of hard to ask volunteer members of a task force to take, this question, go research it and bring it back. I wonder how, how the task force would like to kind of proceed on this. Is it something that is just staff driven, or just, we lean on Chad's expertise, or, to answer these questions on behalf of the task force, and is that even fair to kind of, drop things like that on a single person's plate? I guess I'm interested in who might be interested in contributing to developing these responses and kind of vetting them and doing a bit of research to kind of come up with a well-reasoned response.
Well, I would think that that both of you are in the business, if you would. So I think you have the resources. But I have no problem if you wanted to, like, say, Frank, could you go run this down? I just think I feel that you guys are we like to use the word system matter experts. So now both of you got new titles. I've given them these new titles. But I think to reach out to any of us, to who volunteers, myself, whatever, I think that would be fair. I just think that you guys are on the leading edge of what's going on out there. You see it, you live it every day, much more than I do, or many of the others, I guess. I don't know. I would be okay with, if you asked me to do something, can you look into this? That's just my personal opinion for me, myself. But
As the counselor who's going to be voting on this later, I'm abstaining from this part of it, so it's up to all of you.
Makes sense. Anyone else with thoughts? Here I am over here looking for hands. Look at me.
I'm happy to go through it. I'm happy to pass off as much of it as anybody else wants to look at it. And I think what I would just do is just ideally put a Word document back together again with here is the issue, here's the links they provided, here's the documentation. Because ideally, I think we should all be able to, go through it. I don't want anybody to necessarily take my word for, I read it and said I think it's okay, and they read it and think it's bad. I'd rather provide you with the links as well, and have everybody have enough time to kind of chew on it and make sure that we as a committee then agree with that total response.
Yeah. Agreed. Anyone else? So what did we decide?
It certainly sounded to me like we wanted to just take the issues that were raised by the Groton conservation advocates related to synthetic turf, and kind of look at each of the issues that they pointed out, and take a little bit of a deeper dive and to kind of craft a response for each one of those. And that's pretty much what I heard. And I heard Chad's willing to do some work on it. I think I'm willing to do some work on it. Frank, you've indicated you're willing to do some work on it. I know that Bruce Flax, although he's not here tonight, and I don't want to speak for him, but he did a certain amount of that type of research at the point where they were going to the RTM. So I think he may be willing to contribute to that effort as well. So I think it's probably a matter of something that I'll initiate the process. I'll send out some emails to those folks who've indicated an interest in looking into it further, and working between now and our next meeting, and maybe coming up with some written responses. I don't know if that process will be done by our next meeting or not, but we can at least get started on that and make some progress, and maybe we cover half of the issues, or a third of the issues, or all of the issues. I don't know. Kind of once we have kind of a draft response, maybe we vet those with the task force, and to make sure that the task force is comfortable with whatever response we come up with. And once we are, then, and we've got all the questions answered at some point, then we're ready.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think if we send it out as a document, we could all put our comments to it like you did with the draft that you did.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. So I think that's all of our agenda items. I guess I would.
There, Frank.
I'm sorry?
Make it by 8.
8:05, close
We're
enough.
close. So our next meeting would be scheduled for May 20th, the third Thursday in May, at 7 p.m. again. So that'll be our next meeting on the 20th of May, 7 p.m. So I guess with no further ado, any motion to adjourn our meeting this evening?
Motion.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to know if we're meeting before the RTM takes on that
Vote.
that department line, budget line, or no, is it after?
I wouldn't, it's going to be close, Portia.
Okay, all right.
The committee is going to meet on I think I mentioned the 26th.
Oh, yeah.
The full RTM,
Yeah.
that budget meeting, just like the council, it takes a couple of days. So
Yeah.
where we fit on that, there's sometime in May, it may be before May 20th, it may not be. So
can we be in touch via email to just, not have a meeting, because we can't, but at least send out important dates to kind of keep everybody in the loop prior to that?
Yeah, I think I am going to, earlier on there, I think I agreed to notify the members of the task force and the stakeholders about those important meeting dates, I suppose.
Yes, yeah. All right,
I don't believe that there is, like a public comment section of the, for the RTM budget meeting. Like, the public is not going to be able to speak at that meeting, and nor do I think they'll be able to speak at the committee meeting.
Well, it might depend on when they have their meetings. So they still have their monthly meeting, town council. We are still having our regular council meeting. So the RTM met last night. So their next one would be in May, but depending on when that falls, if it falls right, I just think then we could comment then.
Yeah.
I'll look at the dates.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Portia. Good call on that.
They could still have that chance to speak.
Yeah.
So if it falls right, we could try to load it with folks to come out and support it. And I think it'd be helpful.
And I think they could also just contact RTM members directly as well.
Correct. All right.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Or Frank,
I'm sorry.
you could continue with your German.
Okay.
I think Rachel made the motion to.
Rachel was very fast.
In the middle of making it, and I don't know.
Motion to adjourn.
Did anybody second that?
Oh. Danny Lee seconded.
Danny, okay. I gotta keep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right.
How many?
As I see none. Terrific. Have a great night. No, we'll chat again in May. Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.